What's a secret you can share about a company you used to work for? The company doesn't even exist anymore. But back in the early 90s, I worked at Radio Shack for about a year and a half. Whenever customers brought back broken merchandise, the store manager would just repackage it and put it right back on the shelf as new. When I asked him why, he said, "I'm just hoping they return it to a different store." I almost got fired for refusing to sell a guy a walkie-talkie I knew was busted. He was heading out hunting and wanted 3 matching radios for himself and his buddies. We had 2 that worked and 1 that was dead. Right there in front of the customer, I told the manager I'd tested one, and it didn't work. The guy was so grateful I said something. They set it up so he could grab the 3rd radio from another one of our stores, and off he went. The manager was furious, came this close to firing me. But sorry, I'm not sending people into the woods with gear I know is broken. Best part? A couple months later, that same manager got caught stealing from the store and got canned himself. I used to work at a graphic design company. Every single piece of Adobe software we had was pirated. From what I've heard about Adobe, if I were in that line of work, I'd pirate it too. I worked at a casino, up in the surveillance room about 3 floors above the gaming floor. We could zoom a camera in on the cash sitting on the tables and read the serial numbers right off the bills. We could even count the pips on the dice. The one thing we were not allowed to do? Look down the ladies' blouses. In Vegas, everybody's got to watch everybody else. Since the players are looking to fleece the casino, the dealers watch the players, the boxmen watch the dealers, the floor men watch the boxmen, the pit bosses watch the floor men, the shift bosses watch the pit bosses, the casino manager watches the shift bosses, I watch the casino manager, and the eye in the sky watches all of us. All the new clothes, including everything you try on in the store, are filthy. I spent years working in retail, and people might be shocked to hear this, but there's no washing machine, no disinfectant spray, no wipes, nothing. I'd open boxes of brand new clothing and watch little white bugs crawl out. I'd see women come in after a workout, sweaty and reeking, try things on, hang them back up, and walk out. One time, an older lady left flakes of skin the size of a dime on everything she tried on. And don't even get me started on returns. You have no idea what someone did with those clothes at home, and we have no clue what happens at the factories either. People are gross, and everything is dirty everywhere. So every time you get home from shopping, wash whatever you bought. Call center. When you hear that recording, we're currently experiencing an unusually high volume of calls. Please hold. Just know that message plays 24/7. Management simply never bothered to staff the place properly. I worked as a dog groomer one summer. We'd give the dog a treat even when it was being a total brat. That's an outrage. If you're on hold and you don't hear any music, just know the operator has muted the mic and can still hear every word you're saying. The stuff I overheard from customers who thought I couldn't hear them was wild and sometimes downright disturbing. I worked in insurance. Turns out hundreds of people with 0 special clearance have access to your SSN, your social security number. Same goes for pretty much any HR department. The company I worked for literally kept an unprotected Google sheet with every employee's address, SSN, and even their salary. I worked at a big cable company, Time Warner. We had 4 billing cycles. At some point, they updated the billing system and botched it, so every cycle except the current one got hit with late fees. Instead of fixing it right away, we were told to only credit the money back if the customer actually called in to complain. I ran some numbers and found out 1/3 of our entire city had been billed incorrectly. The total error came to over $1 million, and in the end, most people just kept paying their bills without ever noticing anything was off. One time, a manager at an Arby's swapped the expiration stickers on the bread for fresh ones, apparently to keep the bread around longer. I ended up having to throw out something like 100 buns covered in greenish mold. I worked at a big construction company, where I'd constantly catch the salespeople deliberately leaving items out of the contracts because once they did, they got a bonus for writing up the change orders. "Hey, you forgot to put the window frames in the contract." Salesman: "Oops. Well, looks like you'll need to file a change order." I worked for a company that did home restoration and cleanup. One time, an elderly woman came to us. I think she was either a hoarder who'd packed her house full of junk, or she'd had a fire. I don't remember exactly. Either way, Our company billed her 57 grand, when in reality they couldn't justify even 20 of it. The woman couldn't get her insurance to pay out. There were other cases of wildly inflated bills too, but that was the worst one I know of that didn't involve major actual damage. The lesson? If you've been through a flood, a fire, or your house got moldy or trashed and you call in a company to clean it all up, go through every single line on their bill. Every single one. Here's the difference between the premium deli meats sold at fancy butcher shops and the regular deli meats sold at other grocery stores. We just swapped the labels. We'd literally stop the production line, wait for the guy running the machine to switch them around, and then start the line back up. This happens with all kinds of products. What blows my mind is how much of our sense of a product's quality just comes down to packaging. I work in winemaking, and it amazes me how much people will spend on wine just because the packaging makes it look high-end. Marketing plays a huge role too. The cheaper store brands don't invest much in advertising, if at all, so production costs stay low. Cheaper packaging, cheaper marketing, same product, lower price. Most hotels don't have round-the-clock security, maintenance, or housekeeping. Once the cleaning staff finishes all the rooms, everybody leaves except for a single employee. Yep. I was a 19-year-old kid working at a pretty popular hotel, and I was very often left completely alone. There were times I had no idea what I was doing. People would call saying something in their room was broken, and literally all I could do was head up there and try to fix it myself, while the front desk sat totally unattended. And this would happen at 9 in the evening, not 3 in the morning. There's this one super popular restaurant in town, supposedly one of the best. Everybody loves going there. They claim all the food is homemade. The place is famous for its hot roast beef sandwiches with homemade mashed potatoes and gravy, and its fried fish. The fried fish is on the menu as the cod platter. In reality, the gravy is just instant Cisco mix, same with the mashed potatoes, and the cod is only fresh and fried on Fridays. Order it any other day of the week, and they'll bring you a frozen Cisco fish fillet with chunks of some random fish tossed in. I worked at L'Oreal. L'Oreal and Lancôme are basically identical, except Lancôme costs about 20% more. I'm about 90% sure the company I worked for was importing products from China, repackaging them, and selling them as made in the USA. Basically, they'd mix the imported stuff in with the products that were actually made in the States. If you've ever chatted with a customer support agent online, here's something to know. As the agent, I could see what you were typing before you ever hit send. I watched people type out abusive, racist, sexist rants in real time, cook up scam schemes and lies, carefully fix their grammar mistakes, run through their entire range of emotions, and then delete all of it and just send, okay. I worked as a housekeeper for over 10 years at a major hotel chain. You wouldn't believe how many people kill themselves or just die of natural causes in hotel rooms. I worked at a huge hotel with more than 1,000 rooms, and I ran into it pretty regularly. Usually we'd just remove the body, do a normal cleaning, and unless it was something truly horrific, the next guest checking in had no idea anything had happened. At one of the hotels where I worked, a woman took her own life by drinking antifreeze. Her body had turned blue, and there was blood, vomit, and mess everywhere. My buddy who was on duty that night saw the whole thing. He couldn't sleep for a long time afterward. Working in hotels changes you. Movie theaters don't make their money on tickets. They make it on the concessions, the popcorn and drinks. That said, 99.9% of theater employees will not care if you bring in your own food. All we ask is that you're discreet enough about it that we don't get yelled at by the 0.1% who do care. And I'm not one of them. I work in ice production. My shift supervisor once accidentally dropped a 7-gram bag of weed into a bag of ice, and it got shipped out. Nobody ever called to complain. Yeah, but somebody definitely called to say thanks. Around that time, a wave of confirmed cases came to light involving the sexual abuse of young women, aged 18 to 25, refugees from Iraq, by employees of government refugee protection agencies. After digging deeper, my team and I discovered that caseworkers at one agency were sleeping with the refugee girls. They'd deny them job opportunities to deliberately keep them financially desperate, and once the girls hit rock bottom, the caseworkers would offer to set them up with private prostitution. After uncovering all this, I reported it to the head of the organization. They thanked me, and the next day the caseworkers were fired. I got called into a big meeting with senior leadership, where they apologized. We don't do things like this. Don't get the wrong idea. Blah, blah, blah. And then, over the next 3 months, me and 6 other people who'd investigated and reported the case were let go from the company for various reasons on paper. On paper, it looks like a coincidence, but in reality, they just picked us off one by one. And the 2 caseworkers who turned out to be the worst offenders? They weren't actually fired. They were allowed to resign. And right now, they're working at a different agency, once again dealing with vulnerable young girls. Back in the day, I worked as a receptionist at an upscale beauty salon. While I was there, our salon launched a new product line aimed at men. Up until then, most of our products were aimed at women, but management noticed that more and more male clients were coming in. Every product in the men's line cost about half what the women's version did. The men's shampoo was the exact same shampoo we'd been selling for years, but because they put it in black packaging that said, "For men," it cost half as much. The salon owner explained it like this. Well, men don't really want to spend much on hair products. So the whole time I worked there, every time a female client was about to buy shampoo, I'd tell her to grab the men's one instead, since it's the exact same product at half the price. Thanks so much for watching. Down in the comments, tell us a secret you can share from a company you used to work for. And don't forget to check out our other videos. Hugs. See ya.